Good morning, everyone. This is John with Gun.Deals, and today we're going to be taking a look at something excellent. This is the new-ish Canik Mete MC9. Now, before we get into the video, while you're here, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe, as that is all free and it does help us out quite a bit. On top of that, go ahead and comment your favorite subcompact slash micro 9 slash 1.5 stack Wonder 9 in the comments down below. Now, full disclosure on the Canik MC9 is that we have absolutely no relationship with Canik whatsoever. I paid my own money for this handgun. I believe I paid $3.99 at Shields in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which I think is a pretty fantastic deal anytime you're sub $400 for a really high quality handgun with really good performance, as we'll get into a little bit later on. I think that's going to be a very good value. Now, getting into what exactly is the Canik Mete MC9, the Meta line from Canik has, I believe, the SFT and the SFX, and probably also a competition gun in there as well. I have tried the SFT and I absolutely loved it. The MC9 is the Micro Compact 9, I believe. Feel free to correct me in the comments down below if I'm wrong about that, but it's basically their entry into the more modern, slim 1.5 stack 9mm genre, which is a pretty packed genre. So if you're going to put in a new handgun in there, it's got to beat them in performance, it's got to beat them in price, or in this case, maybe both. Now, for 400 bucks, Canik gives you quite a bit of stuff right out of the box. Of course, you get the MC9. This one here is in FDE, though they also offer it in black and I believe mixed as well. You get 2 magazines, a 12-round flush fit magazine. On my 12-round magazine, I have the little grip extension on there as it makes it fit a little bit better in my hands. And then it also comes with a 15-round magazine, which with a much longer grip extension, which will probably make it more comfortable for most people with larger hands, as even with my somewhat smaller hands, the 12-round with extension is a little bit short. The magazines themselves seem to be of extremely high quality. They are a little bit more expensive. I think they're $40-ish around that price tag, depending on if you get them on sale or whatnot. So they are a little bit more expensive to stock up on than some other magazines on the market. Now, along with the MC9 and magazines, Canik gives you a lot of extra stuff in the hard carrying case as well. So it also comes with a holster. That means that if you buy this handgun, it's your first handgun right out of the box, you can start carrying it basically immediately. Now, the holster isn't necessarily my favorite type of holster. That being said, it is nice that it comes with one, so you don't have to go out and find one. Now, on top of that, it also has 3 different back straps that you can use on your grip. It also comes with the tool to switch them out, which is a very nice touch. On top of that, it comes with a little micro gun that actually has all of the tools inside, which is, again, a nice little touch. And again, they're keeping the price down and also throwing in a nice bit of extra stuff as well, so I can't really fault them for that. It also has cleaning tools, your safety manuals, your actual owner's manual, your safety lock if you intend to use such a thing. It also has a magazine loader to help you if you have weak thumbs, but again, it just comes with a nearly excessive amount of stuff, and keep in mind they're keeping the price at around $400-ish. Now, getting into the actual gun itself, we'll go ahead and start out with the grip. Again, these grip panels here are replaceable. It does come with 3, which is a nice touch. So if you have different shaped hands, you can figure out what works best for you. I'm just using the one that it's shipped with, as it seems to fit my hands fairly well. Now, starting out with the magazine, well, there is a bit of beveling on it, but it is definitely a concealed carry style magwell, as in it's not flared or extended or anything else like that. However, the magazines do insert very nice. They have a very tight fit in the magazine well, which is nice, so they're going to hopefully feed very reliably, and so far they have, but again, nothing too special about the magazine well itself. Now, the grip texture on the Canik is like a mild sandpaper. It's not the most aggressive texture on the market. One nice touch is that on the magazines, they actually do have that texture all over the base plate. So again, if you're actually using that to get some more grip on the gun, it is nice that they are actually textured. Now, there's not very much texture, which would be my next complaint with it. So it stops about halfway up the grip, and then the rest of the grip is just this very smooth polymer grip, which is, standard for the industry, but I would like to see more texture on the grip. I think the texture itself is kind of on the medium side in terms of aggressiveness, but if it's going to be a little bit lighter, I would like to see more of it, because again, I do like to have a more positive grip on the gun if I can get it. Other than wishing for a little bit more texture on the grip, I do find it to be very comfortable. The angle is very nice. It fits in my hands very well. And again, the back straps are replaceable if you need a little bit different of a grip angle. Now, the magazine release, this is again perfect for a micro carry gun. It is small, diminutive, out of the way, and it is placed to where even with my smaller hands, I don't really need to break my grip at all to hit it. It works very well. You're not going to accidentally hit it again. It is a small, has a little bit of texture on it, but it's very well placed. It's well thought out. And again, it's not big or bulky where you're accidentally going to hit it. Now moving up from there, you have a ambidextrous slide stop, slide release. So you can do it from either side. You can stop it and you can also let it go as well. On mine, which is a fairly new handgun at this point, it is fairly stiff, but it is again ambidextrous, so you guys don't have to do that weird thing with your finger where you lift up and push down really hard, if I can do it, to get the slide to go home. Now, one thing about the slide release, slide stop on most Caniks is that they are these very long levers, and they are a little bit bulky as well, so they actually add about 0.15 of an inch to the overall width of the gun, and of course it's a little bit more because it's ambidextrous on this, but if it's a feature that you want or need, it is there. They're very easy to hit and actuate, and on top of that, I haven't accidentally actuated them when I didn't mean to, so it's working so far, but they are a little bit bigger and bulkier than you'll see on some other handguns. Now, in front of your slide stop, you have your takedown lever, which is very easy. Pull the slide barely to the rear, pull straight down, and then the upper and lower actually separate from each other. You kind of just lift up, not like a Glock where it slides off the front. You just move it forward a little bit and then pull it apart, and then your upper and lower are separated. Now, very nicely on the MC9, up front, we have our accessory rail for lights or lasers or whatever you want to put up there. In this case, I have a Streamlight TLR7 sub, which works very well. It's one of the best micro compact lights on the market. Now, other than that on the frame, the only thing that we have to talk about is the trigger. And the trigger is going to be one of the main selling points of a gun like this. Now, Canik at this point is very well known for having good triggers, and the MC9 is not the lightest trigger that they offer, but for a concealed carry EDC style of roll, I think that it performs very well. So trigger dynamics are very standard Canik. You have a little bit of take-up, probably a ½ inch or so of take-up. You hit a very defined wall. You build pressure, and then it just breaks at maybe a little bit under 5 pounds. It is a extremely crisp, very, very repeatable break as well, which can help with your practical accuracy, the fact that the trigger breaks very consistently each time. On top of that, the reset is not the shortest on the market, but it is pretty darn short. You're right back on that wall. Again, build pressure, almost no creep, almost no rolling break whatsoever. And again, probably a little bit under 5 pounds. So again, the reset, pretty short reset, not the shortest on the market, but it is pretty short. Again, you have that normal take up, hit a very well-defined wall, and then probably, yeah, just a hair under 5 pounds, and it feels exceptional. This is probably the best concealed carry trigger on the market for a striker-fired handgun. I'm sure there's like a staccato subcompact or something like that out there that has like a 3-pound trigger pull with a manual safety or something, and that's fantastic. But for a $400 gun, you're getting a trigger probably punching above its weight class. Now, just to compare it briefly to the Smith & Wesson Shield Plus, this also has a very well-regarded trigger with a very nice, comfortable flat face. Has a little bit less take-up, a little bit of a rolling break, and maybe a ½ pound heavier or so. So again, a very good trigger as well, but the Canik is just a little bit better in every way. I know when I initially reviewed this gun, I complained about the trigger because at the time I didn't have enough rounds on it, and so it hadn't quite broken in, but it was probably sitting 6.5 to 7 pounds, which is a little bit heavier than I generally like. However, again, right out of the box, the Canik Mete MC9 has just a very fantastic, very repeatable, dependable trigger, and the accuracy I was able to get out of it was fantastic. And right out of the box with the MC9, I was able to make one-handed shots at 50 yards, and just shooting offhand was able to make very consistent impacts at 100 as well, which is pretty fantastic performance for a 3.2-inch 9mm handgun. Now, getting into the slide on the MC9, there's no crazy angles or cuts on it, but the serrations are quite effective. You do, of course, have serrations in the front and the rear for your cool press checks or manipulations, whatever you want to do with them. This one here is, of course, cut for an optic. Now, the optic that I have on here currently, this is the 407K. These are fit natively for, I think, 3 different types of optics, and the 407K is one of those that will mount directly to it. It has a very, very tight fit, both in the optic cut itself and also on the reinforcement posts on the actual slide itself. So you have a very, very secure fit from your Holosun optic to your slide. Now, on top of that, the cut is low enough that the standard height sights co-witness very, very nicely in the bottom 20% of the glass or so, which is very nice because, of course, One, it co-witnesses right out of the box, and also they're not too high that they obscure your already pretty small window on the 407 or the K series of optics from Holosun. Now, there are a bunch of other optics that fit on here. However, Holosun is just so dependable and usually pretty cheap as well that it's hard to go wrong with them. Now, talking about the iron sights themselves, they are very simple but very effective. Again, they are standard height, but they work very well with the optic cut on the slide. In the front, we have a very simple white dot. And in the back, we have a serrated blacked out rear with a square notch, which is my preferred style for basic iron sights. If I'm looking for like a target iron sight, then of course like a front fiber optic or something like that to really draw your eye to the front sight post. I think personally that works very good. But for a EDC style, I think just a simple white dot front or a colored front of whatever color you want, and then a blacked out rear, personally, that works very well for me. On the back of the slide, we have a hole for our striker indicator, which will of course tell you if the striker is cocked and ready to go. On top of that, you also have a loaded chamber indicator on top of the slide that will raise up if there is a actual round in the chamber, not just a striker indicator. So you have two visual elements to tell you whether or not it is loaded and ready to go. On the side, we have our extractor, which is very Glock-esque, which is perfectly fine. Glock extractors tend to last a very long time. And the rest of the slide is fairly simple. Now, on the internals, we have what I would consider to be almost a overpowered dual spring recoil system. Now, it is very, very heavy. You will notice that the slide is very hard to rack. Not hard to rack, but harder than other guns in the genre. Not really sure why that is. Canik used to be known for really only running well with like 124 grain NATO loads. However, this did run perfectly flawlessly, as we'll get into a little bit later on. The barrel is, of course, I believe this is black nitride in 3.2 inches or 3.1 inches, I think is the actual length on it, which is perfectly fine for your EDC concealed carry type roll. And again, one thing to note about the recoil system is that the set of springs that they have in there is very strong. It's much stronger than a lot of the other handguns on the market. Not sure why they did that, but it is just something to point out. Now, I did have one semi-issue related to that. When I was shooting one hand, it did not lock back on the last round. Now, I'm not sure if that was just me riding the slide release without my other hand on there to block my thumb from doing that, or if that's just because I wasn't quite gripping it hard enough with one hand to get full lock back with that very heavy set of springs. Now, getting into reliability, this is the easiest part of the video because, again, other than that one issue when I was shooting it one hand and it failed to lock back, which again could have been my issue, it was 100% reliable with 115 grain ball, 115 grain remanufactured ammo from Callaway Ballistics, and 124 grain cellar and pellet, and it was all mixed up together in the box and magazine, so it was shooting random ammo the whole time. Now, I also do want to mention that I shot it exclusively 15+1 and 12+1 to make sure that it would actually feed at the advertised capacities of each magazine. The magazines themselves do again seem to be very high quality, didn't have any issues with that 15+1 capacity or 12+1 capacity. On top of that, I have pretty strong thumbs, so I was able to load these up to max capacity, which is nice. Some magazines on the market are extremely hard to actually load to their rated capacity, and these were actually surprisingly easy, and again, they were very reliable. Now, getting into shootability, this is going to be how does it feel to shoot? Well, this is one area where the Canik actually feels subjectively a little bit snappier than some of the other guns that I've shot in the genre. For instance, the Smith & Wesson Shield Plus is a little bit smaller. They're about the same weight. I want to say the Canik Mete is 21 point something ounces, 21.2 ounces, something like that. And I believe the Shield Plus is a little bit lighter, but the grip texture and the actual grip itself is a little bit more aggressive. So I do want to say that the Smith & Wesson does shoot a little bit better than the Mete MC9. It just subjectively feels a little bit snappier, like it's a little bit harder to track the dot during recoil. However, even with that minor issue, just the fact that it's a little bit harder to control than I would have liked, even for the genre of micro carry guns. For instance, I think the Smith & Wesson shoots a little better. I think the Glock 26, which is fatter, it has a fatter grip on it. I think that shoots better than both by far. So it is a little bit snappier than I would have liked. However, even with that issue, I do think that this is actually the most accurate micro carry compact that I have shot to date. I've shot all of the SIGs, Smith & Wessons, and probably a few others that you can name or look up on the channel as well. This one here is more accurate than all of them in terms of real functional accuracy, at least for me, just because of how good and how dependable that trigger is. No matter at what distance I'm at, no matter how fast, how slow I'm shooting, whatever I'm shooting at, I know exactly when that trigger is going to go off, and that trigger really helps me personally to be very accurate. Now, on top of that, the Holosun 407K I think is a very good dot. The iron sights that it comes with are also fairly decent, some of the better on the market. All of that combined with good raw mechanical accuracy and that very good trigger means that you get a gun that is very functionally accurate. In fact, I probably shoot this gun better in terms of accuracy than I do some other full-size handguns. Again, even though this is a little bit worse to shoot in terms of just controlling that recoil, it might have a little bit more flip than some other guns that I've tested recently. Even with that, it is certainly more functionally accurate. So maybe the split times are a little bit worse, or you have to work a little bit harder to control like really fast shooting. However, for most applications, your raw accuracy is going to be more important than just shooting 6 rounds as fast as you can. Now, this is definitely going to be a handgun that I keep around for a while, as I do actually like it quite a bit, so I want to do more testing with it, maybe do a follow-up video in the future. The holster, if you're wondering, this is a Works holster. I forget the model, but it's for the MC9 with a TLR7, and it actually fits fairly well. It is a fairly comfortable gun to carry. Again, not the smallest in the genre. There are slimmer handguns on the market, but it does give you good capacity, 12+1, 15+1 if you want to carry it extended, or of course carry both and have the other one as a backup. But with all that out of the way, guys, let me know what you guys think of the Canik MC9. I think for $400, it might be impossible to beat at the price category that it's in, but it also might be better than a lot of these $600 to $800 guns as well. Again, time will tell when it comes to reliability, but as far as accuracy goes, as far as confidence in using this at extended ranges, I would be perfectly happy to take this out to 80 to 100 yards and be very confident at being able to make impacts at least decent sized targets, of course. But right out of the box, very accurate, interfaces with me very well. A few minor drawbacks with shootability, could have more grip texture, a few little things here and there that I think they could improve on, and I hope they do in the future. But with all that out of the way, guys, I do want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Peace off.